Book 4, Types of Modeling. First paragraph. The modeling field, as it exists today, must be divided into a minimum of 4 parts, comma, with subdivisions, period. New paragraph. Line them up, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 1, fashion modeling. 2, modeling for print media. 3, modeling for motion media. 4, promotional modeling. New paragraph. The very fact that modeling needs so many categories is indicative of its growth during the 40 years of its young life as a socially acceptable occupation in America, period. New paragraph. Receiving money for posing actually began centuries ago, comma, when Rembrandt, comma, Goya, comma, and their breed paid small sums for long hours of holding still while they painted, period. New paragraph. Fashion modeling started with the French mannequins at the end of the last century, comma, and crossed the Channel to England early in this century, period. New paragraph. Fashion modeling didn't reach America until the early 1920s, period. When it landed, comma, it established a beachhead in New York's Young Garment District, period. For the first time in America, comma, it became acceptable for a girl to pose for pay, period. Since fashion modeling was the American pioneer, comma, let's discuss it first, period. New topic, all caps, fashion modeling, underlined. First paragraph. The Dior gown you are wearing costs $1,000, comma, but you have that air of serene confidence from knowing that you look as though you belong in it, comma, and not just dressed up in it, period. The lights are soft and fluttering, period. The commentator is describing the, quote, divine, unquote, details of the gown, period. By the way, parentheses, if a heavy tax were placed on the word, quote, divine, unquote, most commentators would go bankrupt within a month, period, in parentheses. New paragraph. The music is soft and romantic, period. Your hundreds of hours of practice and hundreds more of actual experience permit you to come down the steps with maximum grace, period. As you come into the spotlighted stage of the New York hotel ballroom, comma, it seems as though you are gliding rather than walking, comma, so that the audience can concentrate on your gown and not your gait, period. New paragraph. Your posture shows the gown to its best advantage, period. You pivot several places, comma, so that everyone can see the gown from all angles, period. These turns are so smooth that no one notices them, only the dress, period. You seemingly float back to the steps, comma, and maintain the same cool grace in leaving as when you were coming into the spotlights, period. New paragraph. The wave of applause from the assembled press, comma, celebrities, comma, and the fashion leaders is for the dress, underlined, parentheses, but in your heart you know it is for your performance, period, in parentheses. New paragraph. You arrive in the chaos of the dressing room, comma, and must change your costume completely, comma, retouch your makeup and hair, comma, change some of your accessories, comma, and return to the spotlight within 5 minutes with the same calm, comma, measured tread and elegant nonchalance of your previous appearance, period. New paragraph. You have just been in a major fashion show, the most glamorous and highest paying phase of fashion modeling, period. It is also the type of fashion modeling which the public is most likely to think of as being typical of the field, period. To provide a more rounded picture, comma, however, comma, let us consider all these areas of fashion modeling, period. These need to be lined up, one under the other in the heading of a new paragraph. Number 1, modeling for fittings. Number 2, showroom modeling. Number 3, market week showings. Number 4, informal retail modeling. parentheses, department store or tea room, in parentheses. 5 fashion shows. New paragraph. You will notice that we left the fashion shows for the last, period. This is because we want to start with where fashion begins, comma, with the designer using the model while fashion is being created, period. New topic, all caps, modeling for fittings, underlined. Paragraph. Designers may work on resort fashions in such cities as Miami, comma, Phoenix, and Tampa, comma, or in the ski areas, period. They may work on seasonal fashions in any area of the country whose prevailing temperatures fits the season for which they are creating, period. They may work in the textile centers of New England and the Southeast, comma, or in such regional garment markets as Chicago, comma, Los Angeles, comma, San Francisco, comma, or Dallas, period. New paragraph. The overwhelming majority of them, comma, however, comma, work in the canyons of Manhattan, period. Almost all of them are concentrated in the wondrous area called either, quote, 7th Avenue, end quote, or, quote, the Garment District, end quote, period. Next paragraph. Actually, comma, the Garment District is situated roughly between 28th and 40th Streets, comma, and between 5th and 8th Avenues, period. It is, correction, in this congestion of monstrous, comma, middle-aged buildings, comma, most fashion is born and first shown, period. New paragraph. This is where girls are hired for modeling for fittings, period. The requirements are completely basic, period. The girls must have the patience to stand around while the designer uses her as a living mannequin, comma, for shaping his, parentheses, or her, in parentheses, creations, period. New paragraph. The model must be the exact dress size in which the designer wishes to work, period. Usually this is size 7 or 9 for junior fashions, comma, and 8 or 10 for general fashions, period. Obviously, this is not the universal requirement, comma, since bra designers might merely wish a 34B, comma, 34C, comma, or 34D, semicolon. Girdle designers might merely require a medium girdle, semicolon. Matrons, fashions, comma, maternity fashions, and petite fashions all have their own requirements, semicolon, and individual designers might have their own set of private performances, period. New paragraph. While this is the simplest form of modeling, comma, with low weekly pay, comma, it can also be an ideal training ground for a young girl wishing to learn more about the fashion field in general, comma, and fashion modeling in particular, period. We have a new topic, showroom modeling, all caps, underlined. Paragraph. Apparel manufacturers, comma, designers, and wholesalers use models in their showrooms for informal display of their garments to the buyers who visit between the major seasonal showings, period. New paragraph. The flow of such buyers might be steady enough so that the model is working full-time at the business of modeling, period. In other showrooms, comma, she may be expected to work part-time as a billing clerk, comma, or general clerical assistant, period. New paragraph. When a buyer arrives, comma, her regular office work may be interrupted, parentheses, maybe 10 or 20 times a day, close parentheses, with the statement, quote, Pamela, comma, this is Charlotte Waters from Neiman Marcus department store in Dallas, period. She is our most important Texas buyer, comma, so we'd like you to show him, her, these few items, end quote. Parentheses, you may be sure that every buyer is, quote, the most important, unquote, from this given area. That is mentioned. Period, end parentheses. New paragraph. The word, quote, show, end quote, means that you change the garment as quickly as possible, comma, walk with a posture that shows the garment to best advantage, comma, turn the show turn to show it from all angles, comma, and change quickly to the next garment, period. In between, comma, you may have to turn down a dinner and play invitation with maximum diplomacy, period. New paragraph. The pay is at the low end of the model's scale, comma, but it does come every week, comma, and it does provide an ideal method of learning about fashion, period. If your ears are open and your mind is alive, comma, you can't help but learn from listening to the discussions of the designer, comma, manager, comma, or salesman with the buyers, comma, and the inner office discussion when no buyers are present, period. New topic, market week showings, all caps underlined. There was a time when buyers had to come to New York to see the latest in fashion, period. They still come in ever-increasing numbers, comma, but now New York also goes to the rest of the country. New paragraph. This trend has developed as a result of the much smaller number of fashion leaders in localized areas outside of New York, comma, who join together for what is called, quote, market week, unquote, period. This is a period when the local manufacturers, comma, designers, comma, and distributors show their latest creations to buyers from the region, period. New paragraph. To be sure that their share of each regional or local market is not gobbled up by the area's designers and manufacturers, comma, many New York-based fashion creators now travel to these market weeks to show their wares, period. One or more leading hotels are the operating basis for these market weeks, period. Originally, the designers, comma, manufacturers, and distributors of fashions arrived from New York with their own favorite models, period. Some of them still do, comma, but many of them have developed enough confidence in the supply of local models to hire them during the market week activities, period. New paragraph. Modeling during market week is very similar to showroom modeling. One or more models are on duty in the hotel room or suite of the visiting fashion creator or distributor, period. The clothes are on racks, parentheses, or the hats are in large stacks of boxes, comma, etc., period, in parentheses. And as the buyers arrive at each site, they select what they wish to have modeled, period. The models during market week usually work 6 to 8 very busy hours, comma, and might have 50 to 100 changes of costume, period. New paragraph. The pay is not high, but it is a period of excitement, comma, and of learning about the latest in fashion, comma, for the local models, period. New paragraph. Models are on duty in the hotel room or suite of the visiting fashion creator or distributor, period. The clothes are on racks, parentheses, or the hats are in large stacks of boxes, etc., period. End quote. End of parentheses. And as the buyers arrive at each site, they select what they wish to have modeled, period. The models during market week usually work 6 to 8 very busy hours, comma, and might have 50 to 100 changes of costume, period. New paragraph. The pay is not high, but it is a period of excitement, comma, and of learning about the latest in fashion, comma, for the local models. New paragraph. To reiterate, when people think of wholesale modeling, comma, they invariably think of market week, period. There is a wide range of types and sizes needed for this, comma, as the market is varied, period. A girl must be alert, comma, enthusiastic, comma, poised, comma, and not afraid to work, period. New paragraph. A warm personality is invaluable in this particular field, period. You must be able to work rapidly, comma, without appearing rushed, period. You should know how to show your costume to advantage, comma, with composure, comma, and a great deal of feeling for your clothes, period. You will use your hand positions to play up the lines of the garment, comma, without obviously using a great display of hands, comma, to show the details of the garment, the lining, or to change the scarf, period. You will show how a jacket is opened and removed, period. New paragraph. Each manufacturer will have his own interpretation of the type of model he wants, period. It might be you, period. New paragraph. Market week is an important week, period. There is a great flurry of activity going on, and people are constantly under pressure, period. You should learn to arrive on time, with your planned schedule and your most perfectly groomed appearance, period. Don't ever be caught saying, quote, I didn't have time for manicure, period. My nails look terrible, explanation point, end quote. Quote, I forgot to bring an extra pair of stockings, exclamation point, end quote. Quote, may I borrow your comb, question mark, end quote. Quote, does anybody have a pin, question mark, end quote. Quote, I forgot to bring enough shoes, quote, end quote. Or, quote, I forgot to clean my shoes, exclamation point, end quote. Those need to be lined up in another paragraph form, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. New paragraph. Just because you're not doing a big fashion show and your job is a regular one in the wholesale market, there's no need to become careless, period. So many of our girls tend to do this, but remember that the girl who makes it to the top is the one who always has that bandbox appearance, period. New topic. Informal retail modeling, all caps, underlined. Paragraph. The retail store's version of the type of modeling which occurs in showrooms during off-season, and during market week showings for buyers, is the informal modeling in apparel departments, and in the tea rooms or lunch rooms of department stores, period. New paragraph. The pace is more leisurely, period. The models are likely to be somewhat older, and the fashion laws of height and slimness relaxed somewhat, since the store often seeks to identify the models with the customers, period. These customers are usually housewives for whom watching the display of fashion is not a business, and who don't have to rush back to any other business, period. They are there for a relaxed luncheon, and for the pleasure of seeing the latest styles, period. New paragraph. In the apparel departments, the models are likely to walk slowly through the area, turning often enough to display the garments from all angles, and stopping to say hello to known customers and to describe the material and design of the garments they are modeling, period. New paragraph. At the store's tea room or lunchroom, the model is likely to stop at each table, provide the basic information about whatever she is modeling, and add to the goodwill of the store by trying to remember as many names and faces of customers as possible, period. New paragraph. This type of modeling is spreading throughout the country, and there is evidence in that. On a per capita basis, it is already more prevalent in many areas outside of New York City, than it is in the Mecca of fashion. New paragraph. Although, when the trend originated, many of the informal models were selected from the store's own sales personnel, the tendency is to select and train girls specifically for this function, or to hire professional models, period. The store's fashion coordinators are coming to realize the fact that a trained model can be significantly more effective in showing their clothes to the best advantage, period. New paragraph. In many cities, the noontime booking privileges, provides a young model with her basic income, and permits her to spend the rest of the day tracking down higher-paying bookings for modeling, for print media, or television. Period. In the meantime, she is close to the source of local fashion, and has an opportunity to keep abreast of fashion trends. Period. It also keeps her in the eyes of the department store's fashion coordinator, so she is more likely to be considered for the store's own photographic work, and for its more formal fashion shows. Period. To reiterate, informal modeling may follow a fashion show or a trunk showing. Period. This is modeling throughout a department store fashion section or a specialty shop during a specific period of time, usually 1 to 2 hours. New paragraph. There normally will be more than one model, and a complete formal showing before the informal modeling. Period. New paragraph. The model shows the costumes one at a time, walking up to the customer and giving details of each garment, making sure to show all angles. Period. If the featured designer has requested that orders be taken, that will be another duty to perform. Period. In parentheses, usually saleswomen take the orders. In parentheses. New paragraph. Some department stores have adopted a rather fascinating practice in modeling, one that's most effective. Period. The models stand and pose as mannequins in unexpected places in the fashion departments. It's quite a shock to see a girl suddenly walk away slowly to another girl take her place. This is especially startling to people who have just come off the elevator, and suddenly see a presumed mannequin come to life. Quote, exclamation point. This is what Monique's will be attempting to do in the not-too-distant future. New paragraph. Happily for the weak-hearted, this isn't always the case. Period. Most informal modeling is done by simply walking from one customer to another in the department. Period. New paragraph. For the convenience of the model and the customer, some department stores have the price tag hanging from the garment. Period. However, others do not practice this. Period. It depends entirely on the management. Period. These need to be lined up, one after the other. Do learn to know the customer's likes and dislikes. Do work through your coordinator and keep the customer's interests at heart. Period. Let her know you are interested in her fitting and color problems, if any. Do model what your customer likes. Period. She likes personal attention. Don't chit-chat with customers any longer than necessary to convey interest and warmth. Paragraph. The best advice is to have warm, genuine concern for your customers' desires, and eagerness to please, and knowledge of the merchandise so that you know what you're talking about. Period. New topic, fashion shows, all caps, first paragraph. That fashion show in which you modeled the Dior gown might have been sponsored by the fashion group, by a major New York department store, or by a charitable institution. Period. Next paragraph. The fashion group is a nonprofit organization of American fashion leaders, who are dedicated to encouraging good taste and cooperation throughout every phase of the fashion world. Period. 4 times a year, they present 2 import and 2 American collections, and these are likely to be the most important American fashion shows of the year. Period. New paragraph. Other top glamour shows are those staged by the leading New York department stores to present their seasonal lines, and their important collections, period. Matching them in elegance, with the added allure of assorted celebrities and millionaires who pay high prices for the privilege of attending, are the charity fashion shows, period. New paragraph. Though some of the trimmings may be less gilded, that's G-I-L-D-E-D, the largest number of fashion shows, which pay high rates for the largest number of models, are the seasonal showings in New York's 6,000 garment district showrooms, period. Paragraph. The tempo of, quote, the district, unquote, is always busy, but during the seasonal showings, it approaches something close to frenzy, period. New paragraph. Stores from all over the continent send their buyers, and fashion shows are scheduled every hour of the day, and often until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, period. New paragraph. The shows last from half an hour to an hour, and if you are an experienced fashion model, it is possible that you will have from 5 to 8 shows booked per day, period. That means, of course, that you will have to race from one show to the next, fighting the crowds and weather on the outside, and the often crowded, chaotic, dressing rooms on the inside, period. Paragraph. With luck, or good planning, it is possible that the model agency might have assigned you to 2 or 3 consecutive bookings at showrooms in the same building, thus cutting somewhat the travel time between shows, period. Even when this is possible, the pace is likely to be hectic, for you have to model as many as 8 or 10 garments during a single show, period. New paragraph. During each show, of course, you will be expected to provide an aura of relaxed beauty, which shows the garment to maximum advantage, then glide gracefully out of the audience's view, period. At this instant, you must race to the dressing room, rush through a costume change, and be back in front of the audience within 3 or 4 minutes for another relaxed performance, period. New paragraph. A perceptive description of the models who appear in the Garment District's fashion show comes from Hal Newell, the AFTRA executive who was once a Penn State football star and later a CBS sports announcer, period. Quote, they remind me of the great sports professionals, end quote, Mr. Newell said, period. Quote, like the football and baseball greats, they know how to keep calm under pressure, and have enough self-confidence that they don't have to showboat, period. Every motion is controlled gracefulness, with no wasted movement, period. They are so skilled that they make the difficult look easy, and can submerge themselves in a smooth team effort without losing their individuality, period. These sleek, cool creatures are real professionals in the very best sense of the word, period, end quote. Paragraph. For a top fashion model working the New York Garment District's fashion show seasons, life is a series of pressure performances at high pay, with midsummer and December vacations and excitement throughout most of the rest of the year, period. New paragraph. The fashion show does not belong just to New York, however, period. It has become almost a way of life throughout the United States and Canada, period. New paragraph. Recognizing the growing sophistication in fashion across the country, designers not only send representation to market weeks, for the benefit of buyers, but also stage, quote, trunk shows, unquote, in many major cities, period. These trunk shows receive their colorful name from the fact that the designer's new line is carried in a series of trunks, to be presented at formal fashion shows sponsored by department stores and women's fashion shops outside of New York, period. New paragraph. At the beginning of this trend, as with the market week showings, the designer usually brought his models with him, period. As modeling experience increases in other areas, the designer is likely to bring one, quote, lead, unquote, model with him and get the department store's help in hiring the other ones locally, period. Some designers have already decided that they do not need to bring any models with them to many areas, so their traveling shows are staged entirely by local models, period. New paragraph. These trunk shows are certainly not the only excuse for fashion shows outside of New York, period. The rest of the country has adopted them as an important part of its retail marketing pattern for women's apparel, period. As in New York, fashion shows are also sponsored by important charity groups, period. New paragraph. Although the professional fashion model outside of New York has the same height and dress size requirement as the New York fashion model, she may be a couple of inches taller or shorter, or a dress size larger, if she is otherwise especially qualified, period. On the other hand, pay rates are likely to range from somewhat lower to very much lower, period. End of topic.